Hello, everybody, and welcome to Design and Adorn's Learning with Design and Adorn. Today, we will be learning the Crystal Treasure. The Crystal Treasure, let me quickly flip screens here. Whoopsie, that's not how I flip screens, that's how I flip screens. The Crystal Treasure is this beautiful pendant or earring. You can see it's got this beautiful ribbly crystal in the center. It's got seed beads all around the outside, all around the front, and it's got these little bicones that bring you up to the center. You flip it over, you've got the same bicones along the back. So front, back, you can set it as an earring. I personally usually set these up as pendants. I put them just on a simple leather cord. And it is one of the first projects I ever came up with on my own. It is my favorite project to do. One of the things I love about this is if you get practiced at it, if you get really good at it, you can knock out one of these guys really, really quickly. I can usually get one of them done in about 20 minutes. It is based off of right angle weave. Right angle weave is my favorite stitch. It's sort of like a loop-de-loop. The way that it is done with this one. The original one, the first one that I ever made, which I gave as a gift to my grandmother, was done using a much more traditional double needle right angle weave. I have since simplified it because the double needle right angle weave is a little bit more convoluted with how it is actually done. So the first thing that we need is we need our tools for this one. Our tools today will consist of a big eye beading needle. You can also use regular beading needles, size 10, size 11, size 12 beading needles do work with this. I personally prefer the big eye. I use big eye beading needles for almost all of the techniques that I do. I love them because they've got this gigantic eye that you just can't miss. And I drive myself absolutely crazy trying to thread those little eyed beading needles. So first one, big eye beading needle. Trying to stab it down here so that it doesn't, so that I'm able to pick it up again because these things are skinny. The second one is you need a pair of scissors or a thread zapper. I personally prefer the thread zapper. The thread zapper, I love it because it is just this little coil. You might see a little bit of smoke coming off, but that coil extends out. It will heat up, and when you want to go ahead and cut your thread, you just hold your thread like so, and it slices straight through it. So boom, we got ourselves the thread zapper. You can of course use a pair of scissors to cut your thread, but my favorite is the thread zapper.
I have this color on the website.
Excellent. So I also like it because if your needle is coming out of your thread a lot, you can use the heat of the thread zapper to melt the nylon at the tip, giving you a little ball that will catch the thread. So that's what I am doing here. I'm just giving myself that tiny little ball. It'll keep it from running off on me. In addition to that, I'll do this to the other side as well. And I just realized I have forgotten a tool here. I need to go and quickly grab myself a big eye. Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Alec. Could you get me a bead stopper? Sorry about that. I forgot to grab my bead stopper. The bead stopper is, of course, what we use. Don't tell me there's one right here.
No, I went to the other.
Okay. Yeah. The bead stopper is what we put on the end of our thread, usually about 6 inches from the end of it. And it's so that when we go ahead and pick up our beads, the thread does not just let the beads fall right off. I personally like a bead stopper over a stop bead just because I love the fact that it's a little spring. It doesn't damage the thread, cut the thread, scratch the thread like using a crystal might do. It doesn't get in your way as much. Now it does have these big ears that you do have to watch out for, but I love that you can wrap the thread, your tail, around the ear so that your tail is out of the way and doesn't cause chaos and confusion trying to get in there. Now, the next tool that I love to have handy is this. This is the Scoop Easy. The Scoop Easy is basically used to herd the beads around. When they try to get themselves into funny places, I use the Scoop Easy to push them along. And especially when we get to the end, I'll use the Scoop Easy to scoop up my beads and dump them right into the tube of seed beads. Boom. Just like that. Okay.
I'm looking for my cup.
You're looking for... Okay, we have someone looking for their cup of tea. This is my cup of tea.
No, I'm looking for my cup that says Rebecca on it that I put water in. It's not here. I'll check elsewhere. Sorry.
Okay. So that is it in terms of the tools that you will need for today. In addition to that, in addition to our materials, the seed beads, the crystals, the Rivoli, and a little jump ring to use at the end, we will also be using our 1G beading thread. 1G is my preferred beading thread. I just love the way that it works. It's nice, it's thin, it's very durable. It is the beading thread that I always go to when I am doing beadwork. So that is everything we need to get started. Now to start out with the Crystal Treasure, like I said, you put your bead stopper about 6 inches from the end. I've cut my thread. To start with, I like to use an entire wingspan of thread. Let me switch the view. So, wingspan, that is arm to arm, full length. Not half an arm. Whoop. The camera moves in the opposite direction of what I think it should. So, it's not half an arm, it is a full arm to arm wingspan. So, I do that just to make sure that I have plenty of thread, that I'm not going to run out of thread near the end. In one of my pre-made step-by-step samples that I put together, I did make it with a half wingspan, and it ended up being the one that was going to be the half length because I was worried I was going to run out of thread before I get to the end. So, when doing it, I recommend doing full arm length. It's going to be about 5 feet worth of thread. So my bead stopper is at one end. We go ahead, I'm going to put my big eye needle. Watch this. I stick in between, find that slot in there and pop it open. Usually when I first get the big eye needles, because it's kind of hard to find that slot, I stick it on my finger, which gives you an idea of just how big it'll open up. Once I've got it in place, I've set it up, I go ahead and slide it down. Now, one thing with the big eye needle, you do want to work close to the end of your thread because it pinches the thread. So it is going to fray and tear up my thread here. So at some point, I may have to cut my thread free. Now, this is not always the case. It's usually more beginner people who end up having it fray to the point where they actually have to cut it off. But yes, you do work close to the end of your thread with a big eye needle, as opposed to a regular beading needle, where you would work close to the middle of the thread and have a really long tail. Since this one pinches it and is going to fray in that spot, we don't want that weak spot in our beadwork. So we keep our big eye needle towards the end. And we start out by picking up 1, 2, 3, 4 of the seed beads. Whoops, I got a 5th one there. Drop it off. We pick up 1 of the crystals. Don't run away. There we go. And we pick up 1, 2 seed beads. Now it's this offset of the 2 seed beads on one side of the crystal, the 4 seed beads on the other side of the crystal. That's what lets the crystal treasure do its job. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go ahead and stab a new crystal. There we go. 4 seed beads, 1 crystal, 2 seed beads, 1 crystal. This is our first base loop. I pull it all the way down, 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 down. I work with it in my hands quite a bit. Once it's all the way down at my bead stopper, I take it and I catch the first 4 seed beads and I go through the first 4 seed beads a second time. You can see I've pulled them away from my bead stopper. That's perfectly fine. I usually don't work right at the bead stopper. I usually work about an inch above the bead stopper. In this project, you won't need to add thread as long as you start out with those 5 to 6 feet of thread. And you can go ahead and let the bead stopper dangle there. It gives you a little bit of gravity to help you hold things in place. And you'll notice I went from the bead stopper end through the first 4 beads in the same order that I had gone through them when picking them up. So that when I go ahead and pull it, pull, you can see here it makes a loop. If I had gone through it in the reverse direction, it would make a teardrop. Drop that back down there. I can do a really quick demo of that. So, little piece of demo thread here. Grab my thread zapper. Hold the thread, slice the thread, toss the thread to the side. Wish I had a second bead stopper. So, that's okay. I can use this one. I've got my base loop in. So, and take my needle back. Needle onto the thread. Straight on. Pick it up with a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. Crystal 1, check. 2 seed beads, 1, 2. Crystal 2. So, like I was saying, we want to go through in the same direction, not backwards. So backwards would be where you start out at the crystals. And you go 1, 2, 3, 4. You will know you went backwards if, when you go ahead and try to pull everything nice and snug, and you end up with something that looks like a little tree. So, if it looks like that, you did it wrong. So, only way to undo it is you take the thread backwards until it pulls out, and then you start all over. But that's not what we're doing right now. So, throw that to the side, grab my bead stopper, throw it back onto here. There we go, and we are ready to go again. Grab my needle, and you can see here, I don't know if the camera is sharp enough to pick it up, but that thread is already frayed just a tiny little bit. It is not enough to really damage it at this point, but it is enough that I would not want that in my piece. So, I now have my needle back on. We've got our first loop in place, that is 4 seed beads, 1 crystal, 2 seed beads, 1 crystal, and back through the first 4 seed beads in the same direction. Very important about going through it in the same direction. Next, we pick up 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed beads again. So this is going to be the rinse and repeat. You're going to do this step a total of 6 more times. That is, or 6 times total. You're going to pick up this 4 seed beads, 1 crystal, 1, 2 seed beads. And then we are going to go down through our crystal, the uppermost crystal. So if you take a look, you can see we have our bead stopper here. We've got our first crystal right there. We've got our second crystal right there. This is our working thread coming out of the crystals. We're going to go down towards, from the 2 beads, towards the 4 beads on the side where the working thread is. As I pull it through, I give it one tug, 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 tug. It flipped itself over. That does not matter. All that matters is that I went from the 4 crystals to the 1 crystal. And you can see right here, I am coming out. I've got my 3 crystals in place. I've got my 2 seed beads, my 1 crystal. And now I go through the first 4 seed beads that started this step. In this case, I'm going through it 2, and then I'll do the next 2. So it does not make a difference. What I do need to watch out for, though, is this loop. As this loop shrinks, shrink, I need to make sure that my needle is not coming out the center of the loop. If you take a look here, you can see right here where I have crossed through the center of my loop. And if I keep pulling it snug, it'll tie itself into a knot. To fix this is very easy. As I was shrinking it, shrink, I can see my thread is going backwards through that needle or through that loop. So I just take my thread, I take my needle, and I go backwards through it, pull. And once I see that my thread is free, I know that I can go ahead and tug everything nice and snug. And then I go through my next 2 beads. It might be a bit difficult to see. I don't know if our camera has quite the focus range in order to see the individual seed beads, but I'm going through 2 seed beads here, and I'm going to pull it through for the total of 4 seed beads. Tug. Now, one of the big things is you do not want to tug everything super tight, but you also don't want it loose. Balancing your tension is going to be critical in this. If you don't balance your tension, you get a sort of wonky, off-centered shape because your tension is not evenly balanced. It is going to try to pull one way or the other. Whereas if you balance your tension, like in this one, let's see if you can see it a little bit better if I hold it up, but you can see how it has that really nice circular shape on it. That's because I did a much better job keeping my tension even, balancing it out. So at the end of the day, it's not going to make a big difference. So it will still capture and hold the bead. And like I said, this is the step that you rinse and repeat. We're doing this 6 times total until we go all the way around. That's to pick up 4 beads, 4 seed beads, 1 crystal, and 2 seed beads. Boom. Going down through the crystal, again, from the side that has 2 seed beads to the side that has the 4 seed beads. You go down, it puts the 2 seed beads next to the 2 seed beads, the 4 seed beads next to the 4 seed beads, and boom, there we go. And whoop. Do not stab myself with the needle. I then take my piece and I go through 1, 2, 3, 4. I caught all 4 of them this time. So you can see I am going from my working piece towards the next spot that I'm going to want. Now, when I'm holding this, I always pinch it as close to where I'm working as possible. And usually when I'm actually working and trying to bang one of these out, I'll pinch it right over where I'm working. So the only thing I can see is right in between my 2 fingers, and it helps make sure everything stays lined up. For the camera, I have to hold it a little bit further back in order to get it so that you can easily see it. See what I'm working on here. So as I tug it, I pull it, pull, and down it goes. There we are. And you can see here, we've got a little bit of looseness up in the top. So to solve that looseness, I just take it, I pull up on the 2 beads next door, and then I pull my tail. And you can see that helps tighten everything up. And there we go. We've got it all nice and snug. Now, I will continue to do this all the way around until I have put 8 crystals total. This one I have already gone back through, tightened everything up, and we can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 crystals total. 8 crystals means that you are done adding crystals, but you are not done with the technique. Let me grab this, back off up here. That goes off to the side. Unthread my needle because we are going to the new piece. Take, pinch, and wrap the tail out of the way. So, once you have your 8 crystals in place, we are ready to finish off the first side. Now the first side could be your front side, it could be your back side. It is all up to you. If you take a look here, you can see this thread, this one's my working thread. You can see this right angle bend in it. That is where the indentation from using the sharp, darn, I forgot what this is called. I almost called it a pair of tweezers. The big eye needle. So the big eye needle was sitting right at this bend, and as I would pull it through, tug, well, that's where all the tension went, and it was pinching on the thread. And you can see I've got the ball there for doing my beadwork. So to finish off the front side, we've got our 8 crystals in place. We've got our first base loop. We have the second loop, the third loop, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and the 7th. So 1 base loop, 6 of the 4 beads, 1 crystal, 4 beads, or 2 beads, and back down. 4 beads, 1 crystal, 2 beads, back down. 4 beads, 1 crystal, 2 beads, back down. 4 beads, 1 crystal, 2 beads, back down. Sort of makes a good mantra there. Once you get down to the last one, you pick up the 4 beads, just like we've been doing. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We've got our 4 beads on the needle. We then go across to the very first crystal, the one that is closest to the bead stopper. Let's see if I can get the lighting to light this up a little bit. We go up from the 4 beads to the 2 beads. So that is starting out on the bottom. We're going up to the top, or from the outside to the inside. You'll notice that it arcs in that direction. And then we go up, pull, 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 pull. I'm keeping that. Whoop, the bead stopper just tried to get itself into my piece. There we go. Once you've got it pulled, it will start to make its ring. You'll notice that the ring is sitting wide open at the top and it's very loose. So to fix that, we pick up our 2 beads because we aren't done with the step yet. So we went 4 beads up through a crystal. We've now got 2 beads. We go down through a crystal. That is heading towards the same 4 beads that we started this step with. This is very hard to do when it is this far from my head. Usually I would pull this up closer to my face in order to work on, but then you guys wouldn't be able to see anything. So I am now working a good distance. And the way I like to do it is after I've got my crystal, I like to go immediately through my 4 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got all 4 beads right there lined up. I've got my crystal, I've got my 2 beads. I can then just tug it straight on through. Pull, 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 pull. You can see that loop shrinking down. And now I just have to snug it all up. There we go. This is not the very end of the step though. The next thing we have to do is we have to go through the next 4 beads in the base ring. Those are the very first 4 beads where everything started at. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just like this. Now the reason that we're doing this is it will let us pull everything snug. You can see there's still a lot of looseness down here. Looseness here, looseness here. We go ahead and we pull it, pull, 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 pull. I've got through my 4 beads, and there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got a nice round ring up at the top. This is the point where you can go up and reinforce the ring if you want to, or you can wait till the end to reinforce that ring. So it does not make a difference. I'll just go ahead and quickly show you how you reinforce the ring. That way you get plenty of opportunities to see it, because otherwise when I get to the end, you'll be like, hey, how do you reinforce the ring? So to reinforce the ring, all we do So we've gone through our 4 beads. We go up through the crystal where our thread is coming out. So I've got the thread coming out right here. Out of these 4 beads, I'm going up through that crystal towards the center of my ring, towards the 2 counts. Pull. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Next, I will go all the way around up here. And I want to go through each pair at least once. I usually like to do it twice. It's a personal preference thing. So, now I know where I started because here's my bead stopper. So I didn't start at the crystal with the bead stopper. I started at the crystal 1 over from the bead stopper. I continue around. We've got 1, we've got 2, we've got 3, we've got 4, we've got 5, we've got 6. I usually don't do more than 6 in a row. And I do that 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I do it 3 times, that will ensure that I've made a complete lap so that when I go and tug everything up, you've got a nice round circle. Now to make sure that circle stays circular, I can reinforce it a second time. And usually for my store samples, I will do it a second time. Now the second time, rather than doing 6 at a time, I only do 4 at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I know that 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4 of doing it 4 at a time will complete 1 full lap around that crystal. So the first time I do it 6, 3 times. The second time I do it 4 seed beads, 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tug, 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 tug. And then the last 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tug, 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 tug. And there we go. That is the first face of it. Now, to get back down to our working area, I go down through 1 crystal, and then I have a choice. I can either head towards my bead stopper, or I can head away from my bead stopper. It does not make a difference, towards or away, it does not matter. I personally usually actually go back towards my bead stopper, but for the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to go away. So I am always building it in the same direction. So the reason I usually do go towards my bead stopper when I do this is just because I like to keep all my threads clustered here in one spot. But again, it just does not make a difference. So I go through the 4 beads, and now I am at my starting point for the backside. To do the backside, I'm going to show you the first loop, the second loop, and the third loop. The second loop and third loop are exactly the same. They are done identically. The first loop is the only one that is different. To do the first loop, we start out by picking up 1 crystal, 2 seed beads, and 1 crystal. Just like where we did the 4 seed beads, 1 crystal, 2 seed beads, 1 crystal, and then back through the same 4. We've already gone through our first 4 seed beads. Those are done. We are picking up 1 crystal, 2 seed beads, 1 crystal, and we go through the 4 seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we go. Now it's the same 4 seed beads that we just did. Let's see if I can get those to show up a little bit better. These same 4 seed beads. So wherever the thread is coming out, I counted back 1, 2, 3, 4 seed beads from there. Those are my 4 seed beads that I go through. Pull, 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 pull. And there we go. We got our first loop for the back side. Next, I start out for the next loop of the back side. So I go through. This is loop number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4 seed beads. I go all the way through it. Pull, 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 pull. These are the next 4 seed beads in the series. If I wanted, I could have done 8 seed beads instead of doing the 4 seed beads and then 4 seed beads. I did it this way to break up the steps. for the second one, I will go ahead and do the full 8. So I pick up 1 crystal, I pick up 2 seed beads, just like before, and I go down from my 2 count towards the 4 count, towards the main ring. Now, when I do this, I line it up 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm able to get, all 4 seed beads in a row. And just because I can, just because it saves me time in the long run, I am going to go ahead and capture the next 1, 2, 3, 4. Watch out for those ears on the bead stopper. I like to hold that bead stopper in my hand. And actually, because we are so far along, I'm going to move the bead stopper a little bit further down towards about 1 to 2 inches from the tail. And that'll help keep both the bead stopper out of the way, as well as give myself a little bit more room to work. So here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need to get number 7. Got number 7. And I need to line it up to get number 8. Number 8 is always the hardest one. So it is 1 crystal, 1 new crystal, 2 new seed beads, the last crystal of the previous loop, which would be the new which will be replaced by the new crystal that we just added, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 seed beads, and 1, 2, 3, 4 more seed beads. 8 seed beads total. We take that, we pull it, tug, 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 and around we go. Now, if you take a look here, I'm not sure how well the camera is picking this up. I also can't see any comments. I'm not sure how Rebecca set it up where she could see comments yesterday, but I've not been able to see any comments. So I am sorry if people are commenting with questions. I cannot see them. I'll come back and answer them after the show. But right now I am doing this solo, so I don't have any way of monitoring comments. There we go. If you take a look though, you can see that it's going to try to start pulling itself one way or the other. It'll either start to pull itself towards the front, the same side that has already been done, or pull itself towards the back. What you want to do is you want to push it towards the back, and I usually fold it over and pinch it between my fingers when I'm working so that my crystals are held in place and everything can be pulled snug and not too tight. I'm not trying to break my thread or anything, but snug enough so that when I go to tighten everything up, I can get this nice round ring in here. Also, my ruler markers seem to keep drifting further and further into frame. So these are the markers that I use to indicate whether or not I'm in frame, because I know that I have a tendency to drift out of frame a little bit. So I'm trying to use them to keep myself in frame. There we go. So I have just finished off the second loop. To start out the third loop, I pick up 1 crystal. I go through 1, 2, 3, and 4. Whoopsie, nope, do 2. 1, 2. 2 seed beads. Crystal, 2 seed beads. I forgot which side I was on. And then I go down from the 2 count towards the outer ring with the 4 counts. And I pull my needle through, tug, 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 tug. My loop has looped. And now I go through, and I'm going to go, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. Whoop, don't penetrate the thread. Pull, pull, pull. Pull everything nice and snug. And then the next 1, 2, 3, 4 will be the start of the next loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you go. You will keep doing this until you have only 2 crystals remaining. At 2 crystals remaining, that's when we are going to stop and we are going to go to the next step. And look at here. I conveniently have 2 crystals remaining, and I am ready to go to the next step. So to set the Rivoli, you cannot set it after you have closed everything. Give me 1 second, I need to take a drink. So, to do the Rivoli, we need to have this opening wide enough in order to slide that Rivoli into place. So, and let me take a look. If I think the back looks good, I will go ahead and set it towards the back. If I think that I'm going to do a better job on the front side, then I'll set it on the front side. So I'm setting it to the back. There we go. And I need to get my needle back. And I need to get my bead stopper back. Whoop. Gravity kicked in there. So I usually like to do it where when I set my Rivoli, I am setting it so that the back side is on my working side and the front side is on the already finished side. You just set it right in place. You just dropped my needle. That's not going to be good, because I do not have a spare needle. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. So, move my needle over to the correct thread, right like that. Pop it open, slide it through. There we go. Set the Rivoli in place. Now the Rivoli will be floppy until you get these next two crystals in place. So once I have 2 crystals remaining, the project takes a total of 16 crystals. Once I've got 2 crystals remaining, I start out, make sure that I have gone over my remaining 4 beads. I forgot to go over them earlier. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 to start my next ring. Tug, 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 tug. There we go. With that now set, I grab a 1 crystal, 2 seed beads. Now notice how I am holding my Rivoli in place. I'm actually putting a finger on the Rivoli. I'm doing this in order to keep the Rivoli from popping out. I then go down my crystal towards my 4 counts of beads from my 2 counts, or the outer ring. I tug, 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 tug. That makes my loop. I then go through my first 4 beads that I started this loop with. 1, 2, 3, 4. I go through my next 4 beads, just like before. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once I am coming out of there, that crystal is partially captured. I then pinch it up at the top. You can see how I put my fingers on either side. I've only got 1 crystal remaining to install. I pick up my last remaining crystal. I grab 1 seed bead. I grab 2 seed beads. I go down through the crystal that's from the outside, or from the center towards the outer edge, towards that working thread. You can see as I pull, 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 I'm now back here at my starting ring. I go through the 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, very important, the crystal is not actually captured yet. Just like on the first side where we still had that opening after we've added the last crystal, we again still have an opening here. So to correct that, we aren't done with the main circle. What we need to do is we need to go through 4 more seed beads in the main ring, just like before. 1, 2, 3, 4. We pull, 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 pull. There we go. We go up through the crystal. We go backwards. So notice, I went, rather than picking up a new crystal, I went up through the very first crystal on the opposite side of where I had been working. I then pick up not one, but 2 seed beads. Then I go down through the last crystal, up 1 crystal, down the other crystal. Pull, 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 pull. There we go. That gets us into place. I've now got that Rivoli captured. Then I go through 1, 2, 3, 4. I accidentally went through 5. It does not make a difference. I will go ahead and pull it there because it lets me pull everything nice and snug. And now I've got myself a captured crystal. Since I went over that 1 though, and no matter what, I was going to go over 1, 2, 3, total of 4 in order to finish this loop off. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. That locks the crystal into place. Now, if you take a look, you can see this is a very open circle compared to our other side, where it has a much tighter circle. To go ahead and tighten up the circle, I am going to go ahead and reinforce it. I will go up through wherever my thread is coming out. That's the crystal that I go up. I go up that crystal. I then go around my pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. 6 seed beads at a time for the first lap. For the second lap, I will go ahead and do pairs of 4 seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 seed beads. Once again, sort of like a triangle. And then I do it one more time. 3 times total, 6 sets of seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sets for a total of 3 times. Pull it tight. Reinforce it by going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and pull. One, 2, 3, 4. Like so. 5, 6, 7, 8. Like so. Let go. And there we have it. Perfect circle in the back, perfect circle in the front. I will now take it straight down the crystal where my thread is coming out. That is from this inner ring to the outer ring. And that is where I will tie a knot. I like to tie 1 knot there. Oh, and it just so happens that I am coming out right where my thread for my tail is. Since my tail thread is coming out right where my main thread, my working thread is, I don't want to tie a knot right there, so I am going to go to one side or the other. In this case, I am going to go away from my working thread. It doesn't matter if you go left, go right. It does not make a difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, go through the 4 beads, just to get myself away from where that working thread tail is, or where that tail is from the beginning. I tie my first knot there. Just a basic beading knot. So, maybe in a different video I'll go over how you do the knots, the various types of beading knots that you can do. But in this one, I just go under the 2 threads. That makes a loop, and then I go through the loop. I go ahead and let it snug itself down, making sure that it does not accidentally overlap any of my beads so that it'll disappear right inside. I'll then go through 2 beads, or 4 beads with my thread. Now this is where I will add I'm going to go ahead and cheat here because I don't have my jump rings. Cheating is allowed. Like that. in our kits, we have these tiny little jump rings in order to attach your crystal treasure to the ear wire. So the first one that you do, you want to make sure that you close the jump ring. Anyone who has watched my jump ring videos, you know how to close it. You grab it on either side of the cut and you just wiggle it back and forth until the two sides are touching. It is critical that you want to have both sides touching because the thread is skinny, and if you have even a tiny little gap, that thread will eventually be able to work its way out of there and run away. But I got this tightened up. I go through my jump ring. So I've gone through 4 beads. I've tied my knot. I've gone through 4 beads. Tug, 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 tug. There we go. And then I go through 4 more beads. And what that will do is once I go through these last 4 beads, it'll secure that jump ring in place. Now the reason I tie a knot before the jump ring and after the jump ring is because the most likely thread that's going to break on this is that jump ring thread. So the one that's holding on to that jump ring is my most likely thread to break. I give it a tug and you saw it pop right into place. So it'll hang loose like this. I can pull it. A loose hold will have it hang in line so that the loops are in line. You know it's snug though when it pops right into place. It'll sit right in between 2 of the beads. And then I go ahead and tie a second knot. After I tie my second knot, so I go underneath my beads, making a loop. I watch that loop, watch it shrink down, make sure that before it shrinks down, I go through the center of the loop. And then I double check and make sure that that loop is not overlapping any of my beads. If it's overlapping any of my beads, I don't want to pull it tight. I need to loosen it up and then get it to pop into place. So right now it looks there's 3 strings coming out of my beadwork, but it's actually the loop and the main thread. I tug, 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 and pull. Once I've got my knot secured, I go through 4 more beads, and then I am done. Now, if this were a store sample, I would go ahead and tie a second knot and go through 4 more beads. Since this is not a store sample, it does not make a difference. It is a bit tricky trying to get into these last 4 beads because, well, I snugged everything up super, super tight and a little bit tighter than I probably should have. That was my bad. I am notorious for pulling things way too tight. You can see I'm putting a lot of force on this needle, a lot more force than I should have to do in order to get it to wiggle its way through. I pull it all the way through. Those are the last 4 beads. And now I can go ahead and cut it off. So to cut it off, I will use my thread zapper. I do keep my fingers well away from the thread zapper. I use the bead as a guide and I slice. Just like that. It leaves absolutely no tail. I love the thread zapper. It is far and away my favorite tool. Next, we have to finish off our final tail. It's the last step. Whoop, pop this open, go down, slide that into place. There we go. And it is very simple. We just tie a knot right here where the thread is coming out. I pull, pull, pull. I go up through my loop. I'm watching my loop, making sure it does not go somewhere funny. It just fell over on me, so it's harder to keep an eye on. But I'm able to pull it up. I tug, I tug. It looks like it's going to try to catch something. Oh, nope, I pulled it over. And I give it a nice snug tug, and there it is. It's in place. I now take my thread. I go through 4 beads away. That's away from the jump ring. So because I know that there are knots over by the jump ring, and I don't want to accidentally go through one of those knots, which could compromise that knot, making it weak. So I go away from my jump ring and I count 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. I've got my 4 beads. The reason I do the 4 beads after the knot is it leaves a tail that is long enough so that it won't unknot itself. There we go. I've got that in place. I then use my thread zapper and I cut it. Let gravity do its work. I just let it fell right to its mat. And boom. There we are. The next crystal treasure. To finish it off, we've got this jump ring up on top that we can now connect to. We can either connect an ear wire directly. We can do a jump ring to an ear wire. I usually do one jump ring to that ear wire. And then we can connect it. Very good. I hope everybody had fun today. Let's switch views. I hope everybody had fun today. I enjoy doing the crystal treasure when I am really cruising on one of these. Let's see. There we are. There we are. Yeah. When I'm really cruising on one of these, I can get one of them knocked out in roughly 20 to 30 minutes. Whoa. Too close. Too close. Back it up. Back it up. There we go. It looks way bigger than it actually is when I hold it up here. But yeah, it is one of my favorite techniques. We do have kits of the blue and of the cobalt blue and what's this color? Fuchsia. Cobalt blue and fuchsia kits are available. I held this upside down. They are on the website. They have been added to the website. So I hope everybody had a good time. I hope you all have fun beading. And I hope to see you again next week. Bye.